Ever get that frustrated feeling, when you're driving around and around, just desperate for a parking spot? It's the worst. And now imagine that same frustration, but like 1,000 times worse, because that's the daily grind for companies juggling these massive car fleets, especially in the world of car sharing, where convenience is, well, everything. That whole parking puzzle can make or break you. So today, we're going to break it all down. We're doing a deep dive into Getaround, the car sharing company. They actually figured out how to turn parking from a total headache into, get this, a competitive advantage. And we've got a case study here that lays it all out, how Getaround teamed up with a company called Mobility Places. We'll unpack how they said goodbye to the old parking rule book and went all in on this tech solution that's shaking things up, not just for car sharing, but, well, for anyone with a fleet, really.
Yeah.
But first, a little context. Getaround, they're all about peer-to-peer car sharing, right? So their whole thing is convenience. They got to make sure their cars are parked where people can actually find them. Sounds simple enough on the surface, right?
Sure, but when you actually try to do it, it gets crazy complicated. Imagine trying to manage parking for a fleet of cars, not just in one place, but spread out across tons of cities. And each city has its own rules about parking, not to mention the availability issues. It's a mess.
A logistical nightmare is what it sounds like. So how were they handling it at first?
It was pretty old school, honestly. They had people actually out there trying to find individual parking spaces, dealing with booking by phone, paperwork at the wazoo. You can imagine the administrative nightmare.
Oh, I can only imagine. So they're stuck in this black hole of inefficiency. What was the turning point? When did things finally start to change?
That's where Mobility Places comes in. They saw what was happening, this huge need for a streamlined, tech-driven approach to this whole fleet parking mess. Their big solution. They built this dedicated online platform just for Getaround.
Okay, so break down this dedicated platform thing for me. What did Mobility Places actually create?
Basically, they built a parking marketplace for Getaround's fleet. Instead of scrambling for parking spots one by one, Getaround owners suddenly had access to this whole network of options, all through this website.
So, if I'm picturing myself as a Getaround owner, I'm done with my car for the day. How does this parking marketplace actually work for me?
It's all about making it easy. You log onto this website and you see all these parking options near you. It's kind of like Airbnb, but for parking. You can see prices, what amenities they've got, and book a spot in a couple of clicks.
So no more frantic phone calls or endlessly circling the block. That's a game changer for Getaround and, honestly, for anyone who owns one of their cars.
Oh, absolutely. And it gets even more interesting when we get into the technology behind it all. Mobility Places didn't just cobble together a website. They developed this whole sophisticated fleet parking software to make the whole thing run.
Okay, let's talk tech. What's so special about this software? What can it do that your average parking system can't?
Think of it like this. It takes care of everything. Reservations, billing, even tells you where there's an open spot in real time. Oh, and it handles customer support, too.
Okay, so it's like the ultimate parking assistant.
Yeah.
But what's going on behind the scenes? What makes this thing tick?
Well, basically, it's this vertically integrated parking operating system. Sounds kind of techy, I know, but it's really not that complicated. Imagine instead of having all these separate systems for booking, billing, customer service, they just put it all together. One platform, no more headaches.
So no more spreadsheet gymnastics trying to keep everything straight.
Got it. Exactly. And here's where it gets even cooler. They actually worked in artificial intelligence.
Whoa. Okay, now you've got my attention. AI, huh?
Yeah.
How does that fit into all of this?
So it can do stuff like automate the billing, right? Or provide instant customer support. It can even predict how much parking demand there's going to be. Think of all the time and people that frees up for Getaround.
So they basically automated a good chunk of their parking. That's wild. But did it actually work? I mean, did all this fancy tech actually make a difference for Getaround?
Oh, it totally worked. And the numbers prove it. Remember how we were talking about those huge parking costs they were dealing with? Gone. Just like that.
Waiting 100% gone.
Yeah.
Seriously.
Yep. And on top of that, they saved a boatload of money on the admin side, something like $500,000.
$500,000. That's insane. What'd they do with all that extra cash?
Well, now they can put it back into the business, right? New features, expanding to new cities, maybe even giving their employees a nice bonus.
Smart move. It's streamline the behind-the-scenes stuff, and then all that energy can go to the things that really matter. But it wasn't just about saving money, was it? didn't this also change how they use their parking spaces?
Oh, yeah, definitely. They ended up with like 26% fewer unused parking spots, which is huge because now they're getting way more out of the spaces they already have.
So they're saving money, they're using their resources better, and their team can focus on, actually growing the company. Sounds like everybody wins. But let's be real, it couldn't have been all smooth sailing. Were there any bumps in the road?
Not really, but it's important to understand mobility places didn't just show up with some generic solution and say, here you go. They actually took the time to figure out exactly what Getaround needed.
So it was a real partnership then. They worked together to make it work.
Exactly. And that's why it worked so well. It wasn't just a vendor relationship. They were truly invested in Getaround's success.
And it wasn't just good for Getaround, was it? What about the people who actually own the cars? Did this change things for them too?
Totally. Remember that parking marketplace we talked about? That was huge for them. Suddenly, they've got all these options for parking, all affordable and easy to use. Everybody wins.
It's amazing how something as simple as parking can have such a ripple effect. It really shows you how important it is to rethink how you're doing things, even the things you don't think about that much.
Yeah, sometimes you just need a fresh perspective. Who would have thought parking could be such a game changer?
Definitely something to think about. This whole deep dive has been really eye-opening.
It really makes you realize that some of the simplest solutions, if you implement them the right way, can have the biggest impact.
So as we wrap up this deep dive into the world of parking innovation, I'm left with this, thought-provoking question for our listeners.
Hit me with it.
What's that one thing in your job or just in your life that seems totally ordinary, maybe even a little annoying? What if you looked at it differently? What's your parking marketplace waiting to be discovered? Keep those wheels turning, folks. It's not just car sharing, though, is it? I mean, this could be huge for any company that's got a fleet of vehicles to manage.
Oh, totally. Delivery companies, logistics, even rental car places. If you're dealing with fleets, this is relevant.
It really drives home the point that we should always be looking for ways to work smarter, not harder.
It's not even just about saving money. It's about what you can do with those savings. Free up resources, streamline things. That's how you make room for growth and new ideas.
The thing that blows my mind is the answer was right there in front of them the whole time. It's like they found gold in a parking lot.
Sometimes a fresh perspective is all it takes, right? Who knew parking could be so revolutionary?
This deep dive has honestly given us so much to think about.
For sure. It's a good reminder that even in the business world, sometimes the simplest solutions are the most effective.
So as we wrap up our deep dive into parking innovation, I've got one last question for everyone listening.
Lay it on me.
Think about it.
Yeah.
What's that one thing in your work life, your personal life, that seems totally normal, maybe even a little bit of a pain? What if you could totally reinvent it? What's your parking marketplace just waiting to be discovered? That's all the time we have for today, but keep those wheels turning, everyone.